Well, we have recorded our presentation as we're not in the building today. We're here with you from home. So I'm going to share the video with you now.
My name's Dominic Marsh and I supervise the staff and service in our reading room here at the John Rylands Library. Once we closed at the beginning of 2020, it soon became apparent we weren't going to be back in the building in the way we had been for a considerable time. As the lockdown began to ease in May, we began to look around for ways in which we could have a reopened or partially reopened service. So the problem we were trying to solve was twofold. Restrictions on travel obviously meant the researchers either wouldn't be able to or would be reluctant to come into what is a Manchester city centre building. Or secondly, restrictions on space within our reading room. I think it's normally around 25 capacity. It would have been reduced to 4, a maximum of 4 with the 2 metre social distancing regulations. So we needed to look at a way of getting to those researchers who wouldn't be able to come into the building. From June, when we were able to get back into the building, I was back in with colleagues looking at the technology and the ways in which we could offer this service. Luckily, we had a Wolf Vision visualiser, which we bought for classroom teaching some years previously, but it hadn't been used in this way before. It's a very intuitive piece of kit to use. It connects up just by USB to your laptop, and whichever app you're using in your laptop, we use Zoom or Teams. Zoom for external users and usually Teams for internal, but both work fine. And what those apps will do, they'll recognise the visualiser as a camera and give you the option for which camera you want to use. So we find that really useful to greet researchers at the beginning of a call and then change to the visualiser, and then we can say goodbye at the end as well. And it's just a single click to do that. The visualiser itself, it's got its own light. It has autofocus, and importantly, it's also got zoom and also a freeze button, which we use to cut out all the page turning and the hands and all that, and moving the item around. So you would get a page or a sheet open for a researcher, you'd freeze that, and then you can manipulate the item so that the next page is available. All the researcher sees at the other end of the Zoom call is the original page, and then the next page and the next page and so on. In terms of what the researcher sees or what the researcher does, people have used it in different ways, but I think the way it's going now, the two most popular ways are people will do screenshots of the items that they're interested in, or they will record the whole session and watch back later. We treat it much the same as if someone was in the reading room in terms of copyright and so on. So we ask people to sign up to our copyright terms and conditions beforehand. So it's great for smaller items, so single sheets of letters or single volumes or manuscripts and so on. It struggles a bit with the larger items. So a folio, it takes some manipulation because of the arm of the visualiser. It can get in the way of it. Larger items, you can manipulate the camera so that it focuses just sort of north of the bed, and then you can put the larger items on the table there. What you get then is the autofocus struggles a bit. So I would say if you were going to invest in one of these, you would want to look at the size of material that you're using most regularly. The service itself, we offer hour-long sessions. We don't allow people to put more than 1 hour on the same day, just because I think we could end up spending all our time dealing with just 1 or 2 people, which what we're trying to do is to get the service out to as many researchers as possible. In general, although we have allowed people to book on multiple days, people have used it very sensibly, and we've maybe had people in for a week, 2 weeks, something like that's been the maximum. Most people actually are happy with the hour, and sometimes slightly less than the hour. It really works well for people who know exactly what they want, and that thing is fairly sort of concise. So for example, someone who wants to view 1 letter, ideal, perfect. Someone who wants to view 1 volume, that's great. What it's less good at is those people who who perhaps have 7 or 8 boxes of an archive they need to go through. That can get slightly messy, and there's a feeling, I think, that they don't get quite what you'd get out of it if you were sat in the room. In terms of like the amount of staff time that's involved, we have 1 member of staff would do a session. I don't think there's any need for more than 1, except where we've got very large items. So if you've got a large map or a big folio that needs manipulating, moving around and so on, it can be helpful to have a second person there. It's been great. It's been really interesting because you get to know the collections a lot better because you're looking through things with someone who's fairly knowledgeable about what they're doing. I think that's about all I've got to say about the service. I would imagine, though, that this will continue long after lockdown. If you imagine being someone where in Manchester, so if you're up in Aberdeen or in London or on the east coast of the United States, it's a lot easier to have a 10-minute Zoom call to look at a few letters than it is to apply for and get research funding to travel over here. So I anticipate this being a long-term service in one way or another.
Welcome to the Christie Room at the John Rylands Library, which would usually host collection-based teaching as well as seminars and workshops. In particular, we are involved in teaching sessions for the MA in Medieval and Early Modern Studies, with the core course being taught with collections in this room every Monday afternoon during the academic year. Though we started thinking early on about how to achieve the move online, it took some time to bring this all together, and it is still a work in progress. In addition, we have the challenge of working in a Grade 1 star listed historic building. It is important to note that advice and support from University Media Services and our own library imaging team was crucial to ensure the most effective setup. First of all, we have a video conferencing camera, which was already in place with a large screen. We've added to this a Roland mixer, which allows us to feed in multiple cameras via HDMI, which can't be connected directly to the laptop. I'm now going to do a demonstration of the 3 cameras that we have attached by sharing my screen in Zoom. And we're using facsimiles for this demonstration today rather than real collection items. So first of all, we have an overhead camcorder, which is placed on a copy stand. And this is the one that we use the most in teaching. And we can zoom in and out as we need to as well into the object. Secondly, we also have another video conferencing PTZ camera, a point tilt zoom camera, which allows us to show larger objects, but additionally we can also zoom in and you can get very close into the text even with this camera. Thirdly, we also use a GoPro, which is something that we can use around different parts of the building for filming. But with an added magnifying filter, it's also very good for using in detail, like with this map. And you can move around to show different parts of the detail. So I'm going to stop sharing now and show you also the other part of the work that we've done to support the students, and that is digitization. We've used our platform, the Manchester Digital Collections, to provide a collection of digitized manuscripts and early printed books for the students. And these are all the ones that we will show in the virtual classroom. And as well, we have digitized what they would normally be use a group of books that they would choose from to do their long essay for their assessment in the core course. And so they can use the digital copies, but also make use of the reading room service that Dom has already shown to have virtual consultations. As well as teaching, we are now starting to investigate other opportunities to share the collections online. And we recently collaborated with the Bodleian Library on a joint seminar.
it would seem that the potential for working in this new virtual space means that our virtual Christie room will be a permanent part of our future.